When Bostin Loyd first blew up the entire internet with these insane dosage protocols that even elite IFBB pros were shaking their heads at, my prediction was that he was going to have a heart attack by the time he was 40. I gave him a maximum of 40 years to live. And first of all, I don't wish death upon anybody. Second of all, when I heard that he was having kidney failure, I was very sad for him. I would have never in a million years came out and did a video like this, especially when I started listening to Leo's podcast when he was talking to Bostin. But the reason why I am coming out now and making this video is I was absolutely in shock when I heard Bostin Loyd on the RX Muscle podcast or YouTube channel. Basically, Dave came out and said, Bostin, you've had a second chance at life. It looks like your creatinine levels are improving now that you're off whatever experimental peptide that you think caused this. First of all, I do not think that this peptide that he took is the only thing to blame for his kidney failure. I think that his kidneys were prone to failing because of taking upwards of 10 grams of gear a week, ignoring blood pressure too, completely ignoring his health markers, blood pressure, and all of that. So I don't think that a healthy person that took this stuff would have kidney failure. Am I wrong? I could be. It's just hard to tell when somebody's been taking 10 grams of gear a week for God knows how long, and to blame it on this one peptide. I think it's a lot of delusion going on with Bostin. And going back to when Dave asked Bostin, what are you going to do? You have this second chance at life. He just kind of scoffed and laughed and said that he was still on cycle. Like, dude, are you out of your freaking mind? At the end of the day, it's not my place to tell people how they should live their lives. But another major point of this video is the importance of treating mental illness, treating mental disorders immediately. Don't let these things brew and have them cause you to do stuff like this. I mean, think about it, guys. Here's a guy that has a second chance at life. He's not even 30 years old. He was about to be put on dialysis. And now he's getting a second chance at life. And then Dave Palumbo asks him, what are you going to do if your creatinine levels are normal again? Oh, I'd hop on trend the same night. And it's like, I don't have this guy figured out yet. Usually, one of my skills or one of my really strong characteristics is I can see through people. I can read people very well. And with Bostin, I don't know if it's just a guy that loves the attention. He loves being this dude that's doing these crazy dosages and experiments, and he wants people talking about him, or if he's just so delusional that he actually believes his own lies. He actually believes that this one peptide is the cause of his kidney failure when he's doing 10 grams of freaking gear a week. People like Ronnie Coleman would see his stack on paper and shake their head. It's like when you have people at that level saying that you're doing too much, you are slowly killing yourself. And even at dosages of elite pros, those guys are slowly killing themselves too. Whether you're on 3, 4, 5 grams a gear, 10 grams a gear, it's like, yes, you can come out very lucky at the end and not have repercussions, but it's just like the guy that can be an alcoholic, until his late 70s and die, at 80 years old. It's like some people can smoke cigarettes and booze their whole life, and some people can get away with taking, 4 or 5 grams of gear a week for several decades and then live till their 80s. And with Bostin, we're already seeing that he is not one of these outliers. His body is already starting to fail. So it's not going to be one of those things where if his creatinine levels get back to normal, like he's just going to be having a fresh start and he can blast tren and 10 grams a year again a week. It doesn't work like that. Once you damage your kidneys are prone to further damage very easily. So even if he gets his creatinine levels back down to normal levels, it's like they're going to keep shooting up. Once he goes back onto those super high dosages again, the kidneys are very sensitive. The thing that I found really troubling, and this shit drives me nuts, when you have somebody that's clearly slowly killing themselves, and again, I don't know if Bostin is special, and I'm not trying to talk shit. I know that he was in special ed classes in school, so I don't know if Bostin is just special and he's just not all there. He doesn't understand the ramifications of his actions, or he just doesn't care whether he is living or not. There's only two options, and those are the two. Either he doesn't care whether he is living or not, or he is just special and he doesn't understand the ramifications from his actions. I don't have it figured out. It could be a combination of both. And again, he was in special ed classes growing up. So I don't know. I don't have this dude figured out yet, but I could tell you, man, if I did damage to my kidneys like that and I got my creatinine levels back to normal, I would probably be a fucking vegan, like no protein, lift weights, yeah, but I would be off everything. Not that I'm on a bunch of stuff. I'm on TRT right now, but you know what I'm saying? No more SARMs. No anabolics in the future. I would be off everything. My days would be over. Why? Because I want to live. The truth of the matter is Bostin cannot live with himself. This is mental illness. This is a mental disorder. When you can't live with yourself and you're carrying on with your antics that you know almost put you in the grave, there is something seriously going on that you have not addressed and you don't care to address. You're not addressing your mental health issues. So in order to compensate for low self-esteem, insecurity, maybe he's got several anxiety disorders. I know that he has severe OCD. Maybe he's got some depression. You know, there's a lot of underlying issues with Bostin that he is not addressing. And some of you might be thinking, well, how could you know that? It's because he's committing suicide slowly. This man almost got put on dialysis. When you're on dialysis, you have a good 20 years to live if you're lucky. This dude almost gave himself a very early death with experimenting on himself, and he's scoffing at it and he's staying on cycle. Okay, there is no fucking difference between somebody that does what Bostin's doing and somebody that puts a gun to their head and blows their brains out. There is no difference. There's this weird double standard that goes on in the world where somebody that blows their brains out, people are like, oh my gosh, how could he have done that? And the guy who is clearly committing suicide very slowly, whether he's drinking a fifth of liquor a night or smoking cigarettes all day, or he's doing 10 grams a year. This is a slow suicide, right? There's no difference between somebody that knows they're killing themselves and they're accepting the fact that they're killing themselves slowly versus the guy that actually pulls the trigger and kills himself. There's no difference. There's underlying mental illness. There are underlying problems where the person can't live with themselves, so they have to carry on with their antics. They have to carry on with slowly killing themselves because the reality is Bostin would rather be dead than be off drugs. There is no difference between Bostin and another drug addict. The only difference is when you're on steroids, you can actually stay productive and keep your job and keep making income. But other than that, there's no difference between him and a meth head or a crackhead. They're all dying. They're all dying slowly, and it's only a matter of time. And if Bostin keeps this up, everybody said this. I don't want to be the guy that repeats what everybody says, but this dude will not make it to 40 years old if he keeps up with this bullshit. And this nonsense where he's saying everything happens for a reason. It's like, first of all, that makes no sense when it's self-induced, right? I put a gun to my head, I blow my brains out, I leave a note, everything happens for a reason. Does that make any sense? Or a child that's born into one of these shithole countries that is put in a basement and tortured and raped their whole life and then killed. Or what if they get free? Could you imagine if somebody came up to them and they're like, everything happens for a reason? It's like, that statement is true with some stuff, but it's not true with everything. You know, when you're self-inducing a slow death, it's not everything happens for a reason. It's no, you're being a fucking idiot and you're killing yourself slowly. Again, I'm not going to dive too much into this and roast this guy too much because it's his life. If he wants to kill himself, that's fine. But I feel for, not so much for his wife, because his wife married him knowing that he's a complete moron. She probably is brainwashed by him and actually believes his stupidity. But he has a freaking child, right? He has a child that is counting on him. When you die an early death, especially a self-induced death, your kid is going to have to live with that pain for their entire freaking life. And it is a horrible way for your kid to come up without a father who killed themselves. The mom probably wouldn't tell Bostin's kid that he killed himself, but if he continues what he's doing and he dies, Bostin killed himself. That's it. There's no if, ands, or but. He killed himself. Just like the alcoholic, just like the person who smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day, they killed themselves. They're in the same category as somebody that put a gun to their head. It's the same shit. One person's doing it instantly, the other people are doing it slowly. And he's at the point where he doesn't give a shit because he can't live with himself. And this is why bodybuilding attracts a lot of mentally ill people, a lot of people with mental disorders. They're using all the steroids and they're using all the bullshit that they put into their body to compensate for issues that they have internally. And the funny thing is, I actually had a guy that emailed me and he wanted help. You know, he was going through depression, low self-esteem, and I totally wanted to help the guy. I started trying, but, you know, he just quit responding, and you know, he said that he never stuck to therapists. So my thing is, like, the guy truly didn't want help, because if you really want help, you're going to go through with it. And so I started trying to help the guy, and he was like, man, I look up to these bodybuilders because they have all this confidence and they're so happy with their physiques and they're, you know, walking around with so much confidence and arrogance. Like, I look up to those guys. And it's like, no, dude, there is no actual confidence in these people. Their confidence is tied to their physique. And the second they get injured or they go off their drugs, do you think they have any confidence? A truly confident guy is some fat dude that can, you know, light up a room, that walks into a room and he doesn't care. He takes his shirt off and people are laughing at him and he doesn't give a shit. That's somebody that's confident, not somebody that has to take 10 grams of gear a week just to have fake confidence and act like an arrogant douchebag. That is not true confidence. That is fake confidence. So anyways, hopefully Bostin comes to his senses, realizes that he has people counting on him, especially his kids, and he stops this shit. I don't think he is, and if he doesn't, he will not live till 40 years old. I'm not wishing death upon him. I'm speaking from a purely logical standpoint. He has damaged kidneys, and he said it himself that he would be on trend the next fucking day if his creatinine levels were back to normal. So, I mean, again, I've said it a bunch of times, the dude can't live with himself, and if he doesn't get help, if he doesn't address these underlying issues, he is going to be an early death. And all for what? So people can go around and say, oh, he was just another bodybuilder that died from drug abuse. Do you think when it comes to Dallas McCarver, I mean, that dude was a future prodigy. But in 20, 30 years, are people going to be speaking about him? No. And I respect the dead. I'm not trying to put any disrespect on his name, but there's no glamour in you killing yourself with drugs, okay? If you're Ronnie Coleman, you have this great career, you're the best bodybuilder ever, you live into your 80s, that's one thing. But if you're in your 20s and 30s and you kill yourself because of all the drugs you're taking, there's no glamour to that. Nobody's gonna like look back at you in a positive way. So for all the people that are thinking, I want to be a bodybuilder, I want to be a guy that shoots 5 grams of gear a week, and I want to get big as possible so I could take off my shirt and impress people. It's all fake, superficial bullshit. If you want to become confident, work on your confidence within yourself. Don't have fucking fake confidence. That's what happened to Rich Piana. Okay, Rich Piana was in the same boat as Bostin. He could not live with himself, so he continued to juice heavily into the age of his 50s, I think. I might have to fact check that. Again, guys, learn from the people that have already killed themselves doing this shit. I hope that he opens up his eyes one day. Again, it could be a thing where he's just so delusional, or he's in the special category and he doesn't know what's going on. But I mean, I wish him nothing but the best. It was honestly heartbreaking when I heard that he had kidney failure. But I mean, listening to him on Dave's podcast, I mean, come on, you can't feel bad for somebody like that anymore. And everybody's in the comment section, how could he do this? How could he do that to his kids? It's because he's not addressing his mental issues. So that's all I got to say today, guys. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for future videos.